Have you ever noticed that a few minutes before your team's game, your phone just buzzes on its own? A notification. A boosted odd. A promise that today might be your day. You didn't even go looking for it. The offer came straight to you. And the strangest part isn't getting that notification. It's the feeling, planted there on purpose, that if you don't bet right now, you're going to miss out on something. If you want to understand why that feeling was designed specifically for you, hit like and subscribe, because the most uncomfortable part of this story hasn't even started yet. Betting on a game was never something strange for Americans. There was always the office pool during March Madness, the friendly wager on the Super Bowl, the guy at the barbershop who always had a number for you. For decades, that was treated as harmless fun, almost a tradition, a small side bet between friends that never changed anybody's life. What changed in the last few years wasn't the desire to bet. It was the scale, the speed, and the target. Officially, this is one of the great success stories of the modern American economy. In May of 2018, the Supreme Court struck down a federal law that had banned sports betting almost everywhere outside Nevada for over 2 decades. States rushed in almost immediately. By early 2025, 39 states plus Washington, D.C. had legalized some form of sports betting, and 31 of them let you place a bet from your couch, through an app, with full mobile wagering. And the numbers tell a beautiful story. In the first full year after legalization, Americans placed about $13 billion in legal bets. By 2024, that handle had grown to nearly $150 billion, more than 10 times in just 5 years. Legal sportsbooks pulled in $13.71 billion in revenue that year alone, a jump of over 25% from a year before. New York alone generated more than $2 billion in sports betting revenue in a single year, more than some entire industries bring in. State and local governments collected close to $16 billion in gaming taxes in 2024, a record. And according to the industry's own trade group, legal gaming now supports something like 1.8 million American jobs. And look at who's out there promoting these apps. Hall of Fame quarterbacks, courtside NBA legends, podcast hosts with millions of listeners, comedians, actors, the guy who used to just talk sports and now can't finish a sentence without mentioning an odds boost. In 2021, the NFL signed its first ever official sports betting partners, Caesars, DraftKings and FanDuel, all in the same year. Team by team, in-arena sportsbooks started opening up. Walk into Capital One Arena in Washington, D.C., and there's a full Caesars sportsbook built right into the building, next to the concession stands, before a Wizards or Capitals game. Caesars reportedly pays the NFL around $30 million a year to be its lead gambling partner. MGM signed a 3-year, $25 million deal to become the NBA's first casino sportsbook partner, and it's also MLB's official gaming sponsor. Jersey patches on NBA uniforms, arena naming rights, in stadium lounges named after a betting brand, all of it exists because betting money now pays for a meaningful slice of professional sports in this country. This isn't traditional commercial break advertising. It's advertising disguised as friendship, delivered by someone you already trust, which makes the message that much harder to question. It's not a tax, it's not luck, it's an industry. And like any serious industry, it wants to be seen as America's partner. Partner to the leagues, which collect billions in sponsorship money every year. Partner to the states, which collect billions in tax revenue supposedly earmarked for education, addiction treatment, and public programs. Partner to the fan, who finally gets to participate in the game with real money in their pocket, feeling like they know enough about football to beat the game itself. But I promise you, there's a side to this story you'll never see in the commercial break. Before we keep going, if you want to understand how an entire industry turns a habit into a profit machine, there are other videos on this channel about exactly that. But come back here, because this next part hits the wallet of the people who can least afford to lose. Let's start with the simplest layer to understand, and still one of the most hidden of all, the math behind the odds. Every time a sportsbook shows you a number, something like minus 110 on your team to win, that number isn't a neutral prediction about the game. Built into it, hidden in plain sight, is the house's profit margin. If you add up the implied probability of every possible outcome of a game, the total almost always comes out to more than 100%. That extra bit has a name in the betting industry. It's called the vig, or the juice, the house's cut. In practice, the closer a matchup looks to a coin flip, the more margin the sportsbook can quietly build in without you noticing. You think you're calculating a real chance of winning. But the only math that's guaranteed to add up, in every possible version of that game, is the sportsbook's math. And here's where the second layer of manipulation kicks in, and it's not about the game anymore, it's about you. These apps were built, piece by piece, to maximize two things at the same time: how much you bet, and how long you stay inside the app. Notice that almost none of these platforms have a real dark mode. Even if your whole phone is set to dark mode, the app still shows up white, colorful, loud. That's not a design team that forgot to update something. That's intentional. The more visual stimulation on the screen, the more time you spend using it, and the more likely you are to place another bet before you've even processed the last one. Real-time notifications aren't there by accident either. They exist to create urgency. They exist to trigger the exact same fear of missing out that makes you open a social media app the second you see a red number on the icon. And once the game has actually started, the odds shift live, minute by minute, creating the illusion of a window of opportunity closing right in front of you, right now, before it's too late. Then there's the near-miss effect. You build a 5-leg parlay, you hit 4 of them, and the 5th one falls apart in the final minute. Does that feel like a loss? In theory, yes. But your brain doesn't process it as a total loss. It processes it as almost won. And it's exactly that almost that pushes you to bet again, trying to finish what got away by an inch. That bias has a name in behavioral psychology. It's called the gambler's fallacy, the belief that after enough near wins, or enough losses in a row, a win is somehow already owed to you. But every new bet is an independent event. Your losing streak doesn't owe you anything, and the platform knows that better than anyone. Then there's the illusion of control. Sportsbooks hand you stats, performance data, head-to-head histories, analysis tools that look like something a professional handicapper would use. You feel like you're making an expert decision. But at the end of the day, what you're actually doing is applying real knowledge to a game whose final math was already calculated against you before kickoff. Add to that the referral programs that pay you a bonus for bringing a friend into the app, the leaderboards that show up in your feed, and the badges and achievements that turn betting into a game inside the game. You're not just rooting for your team anymore. You're leveling up on a platform that profits every time you level up. There's also the cash out button, the one that lets you end your bet before the game is even over, locking in part of the win or cutting part of the loss. It looks like protection. In practice, it's one more emotional decision pushed into the middle of the game, at the exact moment you're least capable of thinking clearly. And a lot of these platforms don't even need you to leave the app to watch the game anymore. They stream it live right inside the app, right next to your bet, making sure your eyes never leave the screen, not during halftime, not when the other team scores. And if you disappear for a few days, the app doesn't forget about you. You get a free bet notification, a bonus offer, a "we miss you" message, timed perfectly for the exact night there's a big game on TV. None of those messages are random. Each one is calculated to pull you back in at the exact moment your urge to watch the game is stronger than your willpower to ignore a notification. Let's move to the second layer, the one that explains who actually lives off this whole system. Because it's not just the bettor who's betting. The entire American sports system placed its own bet on sportsbooks. Back in 2021, the NFL didn't have a single official gambling partner. That same year, it signed 3 at once: Caesars, DraftKings, and FanDuel, kicking off a race across every major league. Today, jersey patches alone bring NBA teams more than $1.5 billion a year in combined sponsorship revenue, and betting brands are some of the biggest spenders in that category. The Knicks were reportedly asking $30 million a year just for the patch on their jersey. Add naming rights, arena sportsbooks, and in-game data deals, and you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars a year flowing from betting companies straight into professional sports. It's not a tax, it's not a coincidence, it's a business model. The more visible the betting brand is inside the sport, the more normal it becomes in the mind of someone who just wanted to watch a game on a Sunday afternoon. And the side effect of that is more direct than it looks. DraftKings alone spent $1.2 billion in a single year on sales and marketing, most of it aimed at the exact same fans watching the exact same games. Some teams have signed deals worth more, over a single season, than they'd earn from an entire championship run. During marquee events like the Super Bowl and March Madness, sportsbook advertising is so woven into the broadcast itself, inside the commentary, inside the graphics, that regulators in several states have raised concerns about ads blurring the line between game coverage and gambling promotion. And this isn't just a big league thing. Sportsbooks have signed deals reaching all the way down into minor league stadiums, college towns, and local sports bars sponsored at the neighborhood level. The smaller the market, the more that betting money matters to keep the lights on. It's not a tax, it's not a coincidence, it's not generosity, it's the price American sports agreed to charge you to keep the business running. And the states themselves have their own incentive to let this market keep growing. Legal operators like to point to how hard they fight the competition: offshore sites, unlicensed apps, black market bookies. But by the industry's own estimate, offshore and illegal operators still took in over $400 billion in illegal bets in a single year, more than double the size of the entire legal market, costing state governments an estimated $4 billion in lost tax revenue. That means while the legal, regulated side of the industry presents itself as the responsible half of the story, it exists side by side with an enormous underground market that almost nobody can properly measure, and that profits from the exact same confusion, off people who just wanted to place a bet on the game. Here's the part nobody wants you connecting. While the industry pours billions into advertising and sponsorships, it also pays billions in taxes, funds thousands of jobs, and finances, at least on paper, state programs for education, infrastructure, and addiction treatment. That creates a massive structural incentive for nobody, not the leagues, not the broadcasters, not the states, to be in any hurry to slow this down. Everybody, one way or another, already depends on the money coming out of your pocket to balance their own books. And it's exactly in your pocket where the third layer lives, the most painful one of all. A national survey found that roughly 1 in 5 American adults now use a sports betting app, including nearly 4 in 10 men between 18 and 49. The average bettor spends somewhere around $700 a year, but that number hides the real story. In New Jersey, one of the country's biggest markets, about 5% of bettors account for 70% of all the money wagered. This isn't a hobby spread evenly across the population. It's concentrated in a small group of heavy users the entire business model depends on. And economists have started measuring what that concentration does to a household. Researchers at UCLA and Harvard tracked the credit files of nearly 5 million people across 33 states that legalized betting between 2018 and 2023. States that allowed online sports betting saw average credit scores drop by more than 12 points, and the likelihood that someone would file for bankruptcy jumped by roughly 25%. A separate study out of Northwestern's Kellogg School found bankruptcies rose 28% and debts sent to collections climbed 8% in states that legalized online betting, alongside more delinquent auto loans and more people relying on debt consolidation loans just to stay afloat. Researchers also found that people who used these apps were more likely to have received pandemic-era tax credit checks meant to support families, regardless of their income, money that was supposed to be a safety net, finding its way instead into a betting app. The people most affected weren't evenly spread out either. The damage concentrated hardest among people who already had credit scores under 600, among financially constrained households, and disproportionately among young men. There's even a name for this slow process. Economists call it substitution. Bit by bit, money that used to go toward the electric bill, groceries, the car payment, gets redirected into the app instead. At first, the impact is quiet, barely visible on a bank statement. Then a bill goes unpaid. Then a new debt gets taken on just to cover the old one. And because placing a bet doesn't formally create a future payment obligation the way a loan or a credit card would, that hole in a family's finances takes a long time to show up on any credit report. It's already eating through the budget long before any institution can measure it. Now, to be fair to this story, it's worth acknowledging a point in favor of regulation. A handful of states have already banned sportsbooks from extending credit directly to bettors, or offering certain sign-up bonuses designed to hook a first-time gambler, exactly the kind of bait that pulls a beginner toward a habit that gets harder to walk away from. And not everyone agrees that sportsbooks are the single villain in America's debt story. Credit card interest rates sitting near record highs, and the buy now pay later industry growing largely unregulated, weigh on household budgets just as heavily, maybe more, than sports betting on its own. Total U.S. household debt has kept climbing to record levels in recent years. Sportsbooks walked into the middle of that story. But they're probably not, on their own, the root cause the headline promises. Maybe the right question isn't whether sportsbooks are the villain of an entire economy. Maybe the right question is this: why has an entire country, from state legislatures to your favorite team to the podcaster you listen to every day, found so much financial interest in keeping you exactly where you are, thumb hovering over the screen, waiting for the next line to move? Nobody's going to delete the app off your phone for you. Whether you keep betting or not is always your call. But now you know the size of the machine sitting on the other side of that screen, quietly rooting for you to never stop. If this video made you notice something you'd never really stop to think about, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone who also gets a betting notification a few minutes before kickoff. And next time your phone buzzes on its own before the game even starts, remember, you're the one placing the bet, but whoever always wins already had it calculated before kickoff.